one thing to think about with dealing with this kind of societal insistence on this is the right way and the only way that we have to do things is it's like if you're going up against uh, a tank or a snowplow or something, you can't hit it head on. You're not going to be successful just forcing back some the Aquarian impulses. You're going to need to be much more clever and find a way to appeal to their humanity, like that it is actually more for the common good to consider the rights of individuals, and you're going to have to find a way to make that argument. Um, but a frontal defense is not likely to work very effectively.
Yeah, it's one thing that's interesting. I remember from studying dialogue, um, you know, is that logic in disagreements, for some reason, logic actually rarely works,
Of
which
course.
is interesting. Like, it's so counterintuitive that you should have to appeal to emotion to convince someone that their logic is flawed.
Well,
It seems like it
doesn't
seems so coercive and manipulative to ignore logic and appeal to emotion and the person's emotions to be able to, if you want to successfully point out the flaw in their logic, that's actually what you have to do. You can't approach them with logic if
well,
there's a
you
flaw in
only
their
think
logic.
that because your
No, this
Mercury.
is not what I think. This is dialogical studies.
Yes, yes, but that's a certain perspective.
I didn't
Eh,
come up with this.
yeah, no, but you would agree with it and be focused on it because you have an air Mercury.
No, I agree with it because it
Let
was
me
proved
finish.
over many
Yeah,
case
yeah,
studies.
yeah.
You
The
know,
the fact is, people are emotional. People are not logical, and certainly people who haven't been trained in higher thought processes definitely are deeply emotional. And if you get if you want to convince someone of something, logic is right out the window for most people. They're absolutely going on beliefs that they've been raised with, or beliefs that we've taken on ourselves through, if not our family, then the environment we've grown up on our religion. Just and as an astrologer, I would look at their Mercury in their chart. Every time I go to someone's Mercury, they're thinking the way their Mercury says they're going to
yeah.
think. So forget logic or anything where you think people should be doing X.
Look at their
They're
Mercury.
they they're going to go according to what works for them and what is important for them, and it will change a bit as you go from the natal chart that they're born with, but that is still very ingrained. And then a bit of variation with the progressed, which moves along at
Yeah.
a fairly regular pace. But people are very emotional. So appealing to logic really hardly gets you anybody. So you've got, but certain values really work. Like people with good values. If you can find a hook, to say this would hurt somebody, we don't want to hurt people. But it's less and less effective when you're dealing with um, thinking processes like Aquarius, which is like floating up above the surface of the sky. Air signs are less affected by emotion than, say, the water signs. You talk to someone with Mercury in Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, logic's right out the window. They're absolutely driven by emotion. You can bypass a lot of people's, even the air signs, logic if you hook into something that matters to them personally. And that's usually family, kids, anything where we really are completely driven by our emotions. And then whatever our style of thinking, that emotion will take over. But if you know someone's Mercury, you're going to have a very fair idea of how to approach them in a way that might in any way convince them.
Yeah, I'm always far more interested to learn where someone's Mercury, Mars, and Moon is than to even bother knowing what their sun sign is.
It depends what you're wanting to know, but for sure, if you want to interact with someone,
Yeah.
you know, those are the things to know, and the moon as well, because
Moon, yeah.
you want to know how they feel about things. But certainly Mercury, especially when you're um, have friendships with people or working with people, how they think is really important.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like this. Is great stuff. I brought up the point to emphasize
So-
what you were saying about the way in which to deal with these things, and just that and that the fact that studies back up what you were pointing out.
And the Aquarian mindset is humanitarian. So if you can hook individual rights into how it's an important humanitarian step to take, then you'll move them a bit.
Sort of like pointing out that the most marginalized person in society is actually the individual, because and you have to look after that individual, because as soon as you remove those rights, game over.
Well, the Aquarian on a societal level is always going to go for the group over the individual.
Right. So you have to somehow bake in individual.
How the individual benefits the group. How
Yeah.
how taking care of the rights of the individual will actually benefit society. So with the vaccination, you'd actually have to find some way to say for people not to get vaccinated because they don't want to, how will that benefit society?
Or even more interesting, the drummer from the Offspring, which is a famous band from the 90s to present day, very famous band, highest grossing independent band of all time.
Mm-hmm.
They just fired their drummer because he has Niels-Bohr syndrome or something like that, and he can't get the vaccine. Literally, it would kill him, and so they had to fire him from the band because he couldn't
Go to any of the
medically-
gigs. Yeah.
Yeah, so they either couldn't play or they've had to fire him, so they fired him. So that's a good case study there for that. What you're saying.
Well, that's something where the group is dominant, but they have no way around it.
I mean,
They have no way around it.
The-
He literally can't get the vaccination, and literally cannot go to any of these venues to play, so he can't participate anymore. Unless the rule gets changed that you don't have to be vaccinated. And that's where the debate is going to continue for
Yeah.
quite some time.
It's very interesting.